I'm sure you've seen a lot of content around product management and the day-to-days and the successful agile methodologies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to take a slightly different approach with you today. I'm not going to be a subject matter expert. I'm not going to be anything like that. What I'm going to do is share with you my journey over the last kind of 10 or 12 years in product management, and mainly focus on your career and you as a product manager. I don't think it gets enough airtime, this topic. So I think when I was thinking about what to speak about tonight, this was naturally my area of interest as well. So yeah, so the keys to your success as a PM along your career journey. That's kind of how we will proceed tonight. So just a bit about me. There's maybe a slightly better photograph. I'm currently head of product at checkout.com. There's a few of us in the crowd who I've roped in just to make up some numbers tonight. But checkout.com is really interesting company. It's one of the fastest growing fintech companies in the UK. It's basically, if you don't know what it is or what we do, we're basically an online payments company. So whenever you swipe your card somewhere, we do all the tech in the background to make sure that you get deducted the right amount of money. We have our clients range from Deliveroo to Netflix, TransferWise, etc., etc. So some nice big names there that we like to shout about. Before that, I was actually a bit all over the place, actually. So, I mean, product management for me is one of those transferable skills. You can go from one industry to the next, and that's actually why it's so attractive and so appealing to me personally. So I've been all over the place, kind of, if we go through here, financial services, online payments, cars portals, jobs portals, classifieds marketplaces in Africa, and even education tech recently. And now I just made the move to London with my family a couple of months ago to work with Checkout and join the great team there. So product management 10 years ago, I don't know if you guys have seen any documentation around this online, but Product Board, I think they've got a nice diagram where they said about 10 years ago there was project management and nothing else really. So over the last 10 years, you can see how the industry has actually progressed and the competency has actually grown quite considerably. And that actually, companies like Product School didn't exist kind of 5-10 years ago, I would suspect. It felt like the Wild West. When I started, when I was in your shoes, there was no talks and things to go to. It was actually a bit of a hack. So, what I'm going to do is take you through my learnings and hopefully accelerate your learning process at the same time. So when preparing this talk, I really had to dig kind of deep into my kind of the darker places of my mind and really understand what process did I follow as a product manager and how did I structure my own career path and career success and plan. It was really quite a difficult thing to do, as I've mentioned. But really, the point of today's talk is actually really about you. Yes, we talk about product, we talk about industry, we talk about all these skills and all these great things, but you actually need to look at yourself. And we'll go into 3 different areas. The first is actually you and what you can do from a mindset point of view and how to actually create the awareness you need to actually be a good product manager in whatever industry you're in. The second one is to see how you fit within your team. So it's not just about you, it's also how you fit, how you choose your team, how you make sure you're in the right team in the first place. I'll take you guys through some techniques there. And then the last piece is, are you at the right company from a product point of view? I think that's a question you all need to be asking yourselves. And I'll kind of touch on a few aspects there too. So you. So when I talk about you, that is, across a whole bunch of areas. So if you look at the first one, mindset, and we'll go into each in a bit more detail. Are you actually prepared for what you're about to be doing? Do you know what you're getting yourself in for, what you're getting yourself into, and what you're in for? I'm not sure how many really junior product managers we have here at the moment, or senior, or various levels. So, if you're entering product management, do you actually know what you're about to be doing? Are you prepared to do what it takes in order to become successful in product management? That's a question you've also got to be asking yourself. Do you have the right daily? Are you creating the right habits for yourself on a daily basis? Are you continually learning? And actually, are you aware of your career and where you are exactly in your career? This is what we're going to cover in the U section. So under mindset, so this speaks to having a journey, what we call a journey mindset, not a destination mindset. Product management, everything's about a journey. Your customer journey, your career journey, your improvements you've got to make on a continuous basis. It's actually the job is never done. So if you are a person that always wants to have a start and an end, then maybe you're suited to project management, not product management. There's a slight nuance there, but I think you have to be comfortable with not having things be finished in order to be able to ship and iterate, etc., which I'm sure you would have learned a lot about in other talks. So like I asked before, are you actually prepared to do whatever it takes? This is not a 9-to-5 job. It requires the ability to actually understand and handle uncertainty, late nights, early mornings, calls in all hours, just to make sure that you can actually satisfy some requirement, or something's broken, or etc. It's up to you. You are the person that holds this whole piece together. And it reminds you of two stories I have just to share with you. A couple of years ago, I was at a company as the first product manager, and we were building for months this really new portal, jobs portal, and we launched at 2 a.m. We had to launch, and we got everybody in there in the office at 2 a.m. We're driving to work, and I didn't need to be there. The work was done, everything was QA'd, everything was amazingly looking polished, perfect, everything was put in place perfectly, pretty much. Let's leave it like that. And what was I doing at 3 o'clock in the morning while they were busy launching? I was the person making coffee. I was the person organizing dinner for 2 hours, breakfast for 2 hours later. You actually need to be the glue that holds a team together and creates that, what we call a vibe, and really makes people actually want to work in your team and work for you. So if you're not prepared to do that, you need to actually question whether you actually are in the right space. So this is kind of something I've learned over the last couple of years. Another story which kind of floods back as I was preparing for the talk was, I was at a kind of TED Talk equivalent back in Cape Town, as you can pick up from the accent, I'm South African. I don't know why you're laughing, but anyway. There was a TED Talk where an 18-year-old man called Tendai from Zimbabwe jumped up, and he said, it's a typical TED Talk formula where they just you say a whole bunch of things and you timed and on whatever topic you want to talk about. And he spoke about his journey as a boy and how he learned some valuable lessons around rewards and persistence and actually doing whatever it took. So his story goes something along the lines of this. So when he was a little boy, he lived in a village in Zimbabwe, and his grandmother used to tell him he had to walk to school. So every day he walked 10 kilometers to school and back. And he used to cross rivers and all that kind of stuff and get all sweaty and whatever. But the message actually was, whenever he got home, his grandmother gave him a sweet. So the moral of this story, or his message, was quite simply, which I think is quite applicable and really nice thing to think about if you're a product manager and actually want to be in this space, is no sweat, no sweet. So it's quite a nice way to think about, very simply, putting in the work and getting the reward at the end of the day. So no sweat, no sweet. Hopefully you remember that after this chat. So the next one is about creating habits, the right habits. If you do yoga, for example, or you're on a new diet or a new fitness regime, they all say the toughest part is actually creating the daily practice and the daily habit. So the question I would ask you would be, what are you doing for your career in order to do the same equivalent thing? And people ask me sometimes, what podcast do I listen to? What blog posts do I read? And what videos do I watch, for example? And I don't like to answer, go watch this one, whatever. All I like to do is this is how I've framed it in my career so far. It's kind of worked over the last 5 or 10 years. Everyone is unique, and you all bring your own unique perspective to your job, to your role, to your company. So I divide it up into 3 areas, really. So if I look at myself, skills, product manager, I want to immerse myself in anything product management, any podcast, anything, right? So that's the tick box number 1. Number 2 is the industry. At the moment, I'm in online payments. So I'm going to look at product management and online payments, learn about the industry, learn the techniques, all the trends, understand the industry fully and the market. Then this next piece is really your kind of secret sauce, I guess, as a person, is your uniqueness. So what are your actual interests that you bring to the table? So if I do product management, online payments, tech startups, sport, and food, those are my interests. And I listen to podcasts, watch videos, and read blog posts on those 3 things. And while I'm doing that on a daily basis, on the way to work on the tube or the bus, whatever the case may be, I'm listening to all 3 of those. I don't think it actually makes sense just to listen to one or the other. I think listen to all 3, wrap it up in a package, and always think about your product that you're working on at that point in time and how that actually relates to your product. You know, if you look at the classic example, which everyone knows, I'm sure, which I'll share with you, is Steve Jobs. He had an obsession with calligraphy, and he went to all these classes for free. I think it was at Stanford, and he really created online fonts in the early Apple products. You know, so that was his interest. If he wasn't interested in calligraphy, maybe we might not have these really cool fonts that you see on my slide right now. I don't know. So it's really about bringing your unique flavor to your product. I think is very important. If you miss that, then you just become a product robot, a product management robot, and you're actually not going to add too much value beyond the next person. Okay, so this is an informal framework which I've created over the last, in my own mind, and then with the product team that I kind of manage at the moment. I've run them all through this, and if you've interviewed at checkout.com, then I would have asked you about these certain aspects, and it's called the Dedical framework, and it's a horrible name. So I've got a reward for anyone who can come up with a better name than that, please. You're going to help me out a lot. Whenever I see that, all I see is Diet Coke, and it doesn't. I don't know why I see Diet Coke, but anyway. So what is this framework? And we're going to spend some time on this right now, because it actually applies to aspects later on in the chat. So it's really unscientific. I'm not going to say that a level 1 equals this or level 2 equals this, but what I want to do is I used this 5 or 6 years ago, and I use it more formally now, and to make sure that as a product manager, I'm actually covering all the aspects of product management in the right way. So, for example, let me actually explain all of these to you quickly now. Delivery, if you don't know what it is, it's essentially release management, making sure the team are delivering on time, making sure the tickets are moving, all that kind of piece, that the machine that actually runs the building of your product at the end of the day. Yes, there's a whole loads of content and theories and techniques under that, but that's what that piece is. Discovery is something I'm quite passionate about, and that is really understanding the market, understanding user needs, prioritizing the right thing, interacting with your customers, and making sure you're building the right product to solve the needs. Market research, studies, all that kind of good stuff. Communication, I've added that as a separate item because I believe that's super important. If you're not communicating your product internally and externally, then nobody's going to know what amazing work you're doing. Nobody's going to know when things are going to drop. The sales team won't know when to sell aspects of the product or a new feature, etc., etc. So really communication is key. That's a more external piece, but internally I think it's one of the most important things. So that's why I've got it as one of the 4 pillars, or whatever you want to call it. Leadership. So if you're a junior product manager, you may say, okay, what does leadership apply to me? You can lead yourself. You can make the right decisions. You can decide to own your career. You can decide to influence people around in your team, etc., etc. So yes, leadership is primarily focused on leading a team, managing people, and managing expectations at the same time. Actually being able to have the team have the trust in you to make the right decision at the right time for the good of the product. So if we just take an example, and that's why there's 0 to 10. So let's say you're a junior product manager right now, and what I want everyone to do from this is kind of think of their own career and where they're at, and what levels you're actually being exposed to, and what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. Are you covering all 4 of these things, all 4 of these elements? So if I am a junior product manager, maybe I report to a kind of mid or a senior product manager, and I'm more involved in the delivery side of things. I'm assisting. I'm maybe not doing too much discovery at this point in time because the way it's set up, maybe the senior product manager does a bit more of that and feeds into myself. Maybe I'm responsible for communication, making sure that release notes are kept up to date and that everyone knows where we are in the product cycles. And then leadership, yes, maybe it's a bit lower on that side too. If we get to kind of a more CPA or head of product position, you can see how this starts to change. So if we look at delivery, maybe you're doing a bit less. Discovery, maybe mid or more, depending on how big your product team is. Communication, heavy. Leadership, heavy. And you can see, I want everyone to kind of take that away and understand where you're at right now. And what that also allows you to do is understand where you want to improve going forward. So let's say you delivery high, low, low, low. You need to find opportunities in order to increase your exposure and your actual workloads in the other 3 areas. This, in my mind, is a complete product manager. And in interviews, like I mentioned before, then I get people I'm interviewing to actually rank where they are on this scale, where they are on this spectrum, not only on levels, but which one they are best at from 1 to 4. So what that actually really do, it makes you think about your career and think about what work you're actually doing and where you can add value. Cool, so let's just recap quickly on the U. Understand why. Make sure you've got a journey mindset. Be humble enough to make the coffee. Now, get into the right daily habits, like I said, definitely a key one. I think about this every day is no sweat, no sweat. Nothing's going to come easy. It may take a lot more sweat at some point in time for a lot less sweet. And then, see where you are. Like, are you aware of where you are in your career right now? And also, an extra note is please help me with a new name for that framework. So you within your team. I've worded this, as you can see, the word you is kind of everywhere, or your. You'll see throughout this chat, it's really up to you at the end of the day. You choose how you want to be, you choose your team, and you choose your company. And I just wanted to just pause there and just make you think about that, because some people think that they're put in a situation where it's out of their control. It's all in your control. So how do you choose your team? And what do you need to look out for, in order to make sure you succeed as a product manager once you've understood now what defines you as a product manager in the previous section. So what we can do now is actually take that same framework and apply it to the whole team. So if you're managing product managers, you can actually see where, if each of your product managers or junior product managers do the exercise, and maybe it can be a collaborative approach, for example, you can start to see where the holes are in your team, and if you're going to hire next, what skills do they actually need to have to add value? I mean, on the, as an additional point, if you're a product manager in this team and this doesn't mirror your levels, then you can start to see where you need to improve, where you can actually start to add value. So in the deltas, I guess. So it's quite an interesting way to look at it. I've tried to capture it in a way that's really simple. I don't like complicated frameworks, as you can see. So the one question I ask everybody in my team is, are you proud of your product? Would you stand here, as I am today, and demo your product, show your product? Would you go home and are you proud enough to show your product to your friends and family? It really speaks to the whole pride aspect. If the answer is no, then I think you need to look at, are you working on the right product? Are you actually giving as much attention to the product as you need to? Are you doing whatever it takes to make your product a success? If I'm honest with myself, I've been working in products where I was not proud. And you got two options in that situation. You either stick it out or you leave and you find a product really that you're passionate about and that you really want to do whatever it takes to make a success. And just to add to that as well, I made the mistake of leaving a really high-performing and a really good product team to move to a smaller team, not where I am now, that's a huge team, in my past. And it actually cost me a few years of product experience and growth. I made the wrong decision at that point in time, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it cost me about 3 years, I think, if I look back. And that's why I'm very careful with how I make my decisions going forward and had really thought about how to structure things in a way that I can feel confident that my decision is actually correct. This is how we have set up the team structure at checkout.com. So some companies are not product focused. Some companies are hacking their way through product. You need to work for a company that puts product at its core in the structure, in its thinking. I believe that this is the best structure I've ever worked in. I have experienced the structure in other places before, and it works very, very well. So the key points within your company, it's choose your team wisely, as I've mentioned. Know where you can add value. Look, and the whole pride aspect for me, you need to, when you look your team in the eyes, do they wake up in the morning and get excited about coming to work and building a product? Do they think about their product when they leave work on the bus on the way home, or is it just a job to them? You really need to understand that. And now let's look at you within your company. Very similar to team, you need to choose your company. It's really as simple as that. What are the trends? Is the industry growing? What kind of products are they selling? Is it a B2B, B2C? What is your interest? Are you more focused on kind of business-oriented products, dashboard, APIs, technical, non-technical? You need to make that decision for you. No one's going to make that decision for you. And then you need to almost hitch your wagon to a star and find a company that's going to grow, it's going to be there in a few years. There's room for growth from a career point of view and a business point of view, that you can eventually grow a team underneath you, have additional product managers, et cetera, et cetera. And there are some indicators, when you're in an interview or when you go back and ask your managers to answer these questions, is there product representation at the C-suite level? At the moment at Checkout, okay, yes, I'm gonna talk about Checkout a lot because that's where I am now. The CEO was in product. It's quite rare at this point in time. CEOs usually come, from finance or tech, whatever the case may be. But a product manager as a CEO it's kind of a dream come true for a head of product, really, because that's just going to be, top-down evangelism, coming out of our ears, really, at the end of the day. So like I said, there's no product voice, there's no impact or value. As a product manager, are you banging your head against a wall to try and implement the right product processes, the right ways of doing things? Are you falling short of your discovery work? Do you feel like you're slipping into more of a delivery mentality or Scrum Master kind of role? You need to hold strong, just as like I was chatting to one of my product managers the other day about the ability to say no. You also need to hold strong in your career. You need to be in a position where you can say, no, I want to focus on this. And if you can't give that to me, then I'll have to find it elsewhere, or I will do it myself up to a point. Cool. Cool, so we're almost nearing the end of it. I wanted to leave a whole bunch of room for questions at the end. But essentially, what have we covered today? We haven't covered content, we haven't covered anything like that. All I wanted to do is make you aware that it actually is about you as a product manager. You have the control. You need to decide how you want to interact with teams, what companies you want to work for, and how you actually want to be as a product manager at the end of the day. And have you guys heard of something called Locus of Control? So Locus of Control is, you either have external locus of control or internal locus of control. External locus of control is more of an attitude thing. Are you a product manager with external locus of control? That means things happen to you. You are a victim of your circumstance. It's never your fault. And those are the kind of narratives that go in your head. If you have a strong internal locus of control, you actually create your own luck. You make the decisions. You set yourself up for success. And that is actually one of the key messages that I want to kind of share with you today is the product manager keys to success is, the main one for me is being able to step up, be real with yourself, and almost take charge of your career. Set up the structures, make the decisions, the correct decision for your career going forward. And the choice is yours at the end of the day. Thank you.